Tiny Parisian Kitchen Makeover. Engineering seamless flow with retractable glass systems. Welcome back to Adaptive Living Space Channel. When I first entered this tiny Parisian kitchen, the biggest problem wasn't the lack of square footage, it was fragmentation. The room felt visually boxed in, cut off from the rest of the apartment by bulky partitions and heavy cabinetry. Even natural light seemed trapped. This makeover wasn't about making the kitchen larger. It was about creating seamless flow in a space that constantly interrupted movement, light, and connection. In narrow apartments, kitchens are often designed as isolated utility zones. Walls, doors, and upper cabinets create visual barriers that compress the room emotionally as much as physically. The result is a kitchen that feels separate from life happening around it. This apartment needed openness more than decoration. Most renovations focus on rearranging furniture or appliances. Here, I focused on redefining boundaries. What if walls didn't always need to behave like walls? That question became the starting point for the entire transformation and led directly to the idea of retractable glass systems. The core innovation of this kitchen makeover is a retractable glass partition system that allows the kitchen to shift between enclosed and open modes. Instead of permanently dividing the apartment, The glass panels slide and disappear seamlessly, adapting to different needs throughout the day. Glass does something powerful in small spaces. It preserves connection. Even when closed, the transparent partitions allow light and sightlines to travel uninterrupted. The kitchen no longer feels hidden away. It becomes visually integrated into the apartment while still maintaining functional separation when needed. What fascinated me most about this project was the idea of movement within architecture. These weren't ordinary sliding doors. The retractable systems were engineered with concealed tracks and ultra-thin framing, allowing the panels to glide almost invisibly into recessed compartments. One of the immediate effects of the glass system was psychological. The apartment suddenly felt wider and calmer because visual boundaries disappeared. Even though the square footage remained identical, the sense of openness transformed the experience of the home entirely. A challenge with glass-heavy interiors is avoiding a cold atmosphere. To counter that, warm wood tones and soft matte textures were layered into the design. The contrast between sleek transparency and organic materials created a balance that felt modern yet emotionally inviting. Before the renovation, daylight struggled to reach the kitchen fully. The retractable glass system changed that instantly. Light now moves freely through the apartment, bouncing across surfaces and softening the narrow proportions of the rooms. The kitchen now behaves differently depending on the moment. During cooking, the partitions can close to contain heat and sound. During social gatherings, they retract completely, merging the kitchen with the living area. The apartment becomes flexible rather than fixed. Heavy cabinetry and thick dividers often dominate small kitchens visually. Here, minimal framing and transparent surfaces reduce visual weight dramatically. The room feels lighter because fewer elements interrupt the eye. Storage remained essential, but it had to disappear visually. Integrated cabinetry with flush finishes allowed the kitchen to feel calm and uninterrupted. Appliances were concealed wherever possible so the architecture, not the clutter, became the focus. Glass interiors can sometimes create echo and noise issues, especially in compact apartments. To prevent that, textured textiles, upholstered seating, and acoustic materials were incorporated into surrounding areas. This softened the soundscape and made the apartment feel more intimate. Lighting became especially important because glass reflects everything around it. Warm ambient lighting prevented the reflections from feeling harsh or clinical. At night, the apartment glows softly, with reflections adding depth rather than glare. retractable systems weren't designed for visual novelty alone. They were shaped around movement patterns. How people enter the kitchen, carry objects, or interact socially influenced every placement and transition point. The design responds to daily life rather than forcing routines into rigid spaces. Installing retractable glass systems inside an older Parisian apartment required incredible precision. Floors weren't perfectly level, walls shifted slightly over time, and the narrow dimensions left almost no margin for error. Every panel alignment had to be carefully calibrated. This project also explored sustainability in a subtle way. Instead of increasing square footage or adding unnecessary construction, the design improved how the existing space functions. Adaptability became a form of efficiency. Luxury in this apartment isn't expressed through size or extravagance. It appears through clarity, lightness, and adaptability. The ability to transform the atmosphere of a room with a simple movement feels far more valuable than decorative excess. Perhaps the biggest transformation is emotional. The kitchen no longer feels isolated from the apartment. It participates in the rhythm of the home, opening and closing in response to everyday life. That flexibility makes the space feel more alive and more human. In the end, this tiny Parisian kitchen proves that small apartments don't need more walls. They need smarter boundaries. Through retractable glass systems, thoughtful engineering, and warm material contrasts, the apartment transformed into a space that feels fluid, connected, and emotionally spacious. It's a reminder that good design isn't only about what we add, but about what we allow to flow freely.